Hey you, my name is TomSka Ridgewell and welcome back to Content, the show on the internet that I haven't filmed for a few weeks because I've been sad. But don't worry, I still am. Now I think it's fairly safe to say that you've never watched a movie with me, but if you had, you would know that I'm an absolute film bastard because while watching a movie, I will almost inevitably have my phone in my hand reading off the trivia, which you don't find interesting, but I do, and I'm gonna ruin your movie watching experience by reciting the little things, the fun little facts about the movie as we go. And I thought today, I'd do that for my own videos, because no one knows that trivia better than I. So I went through all 190 or so of the TomSka videos and plucked out 90 or so videos for which I could remember fun facts or fuck-ups that happened, and today we're gonna do that. That's what we're gonna do today, so strap in, shut up, and fuck you. So starting off with my first ever video, we have TomSka's Day Out, which was a 15-minute long vlog, but it had to be cut to under 10 minutes long because it was uploaded so long ago on YouTube that it literally did not allow videos over 10 minutes. It couldn't handle them. So whatever was in those 6 or so minutes that I had to cut out, I'll never know. I'll never remember because I drink a lot. Kilbing, my first ever comedy sketch. You may notice that I'm wearing a checkered wristband. Not that unusual for me, I like my checkered stuff, but on the wristband is a little red bow. What's that little red bow? That's right, it's from my girlfriend at the time's underwear, because I was 16 and thought, that's not super weird, dude. It is! It is weird! Also, eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that for a few years this video was just called Kill, as I was having a pretty hefty falling out with my old best friend Bing, and his name wasn't in the title just for that amount of time. Procrastination Productions is my first ever student film, and it was already a parody of other student films, specifically amateur filmmakers that thought themselves to be more talented and important than they really were, and it went up for a film award at my school, and they played it at a little cinema, and everyone clapped and they loved it, and it lost the award to a fucking bullshit student film where a guy runs in a tunnel and he tries to escape, and then when he gets out one end he's just back at the start again, and that's the whole film, and I hate it, and it was tropey, and it has instilled such a lifelong hatred of student films and student film tropes that we'll get back to it. I never got over it though. I'm still upset. I'm still bitter. Be Cool was my first ever vloggy type vlog, and it is full of life advice that you probably shouldn't take because it's from an idiot 17-year-old. But it was also published on a leap year, making the video legally only 3 years old. That is how time works, and also the law. I'm smart. Awkward was an adaptation of a cartoon that I made. I actually made cartoons once called Squidge Tales, and it wasn't very good then, and it wasn't very good then. It just basically wasn't very good. Do Something, my second ever vlog, was all about protecting net neutrality, and pretty much remained relevant to this day, except unfortunately about 10 years after I made the video, the American FCC actually successfully did overrule net neutrality, so I wasn't strong enough to save you, I'm sorry. To film Bing and Spamcat, Chris and I officially had to commit a crime by trespassing onto the grounds of his local primary school. Also, I completely sprained my wrist trying to perform this hardcore stunt rolling away from a cartoon robot. So, ow. Ed's birthday. This now unlisted birthday present / tribute to my friend on his birthday unfortunately took too long to actually make, so it was uploaded after he went to bed, thereby missing his birthday. So, good presenting, Tom. Nailed it. Lifehack, my first university short film, starred Chris Rankin, who also played Percy Weasley in the Harry Potter films. Oh, whoops, I just dropped this name there. Shut up, it was kind of cool. The short film was inspired by my mid-2000s teenage hobby of exploiting peer-to-peer file sharing programs to browse people's unsecured personal files, because that's the kind of thing I guess I did when I was like 16. When I released the sketch Bodyguard, commenters were extremely confused as to how I owned so many Xbox 360s, and none of them could possibly conceive that perhaps the people in the video, my friends, also owned Xbox 360s, which they did, which I used for the video. Most of them were already red-ringed. To film the part of the video where the Xbox was snapped in half though, I had to go to a computer repair shop and ask the man if he just had any spare Xbox bits lying around. He gave them to me. When the video came out, I showed him the video, and he was surprisingly angry. I think he thought I was just some sort of amateur fixer-upper and not a man who was going to saw an Xbox in half. Sorry. To blow up the suitcase in TomSka vs. Christmas, I filled it with actual fireworks. Just straight up exploding fireworks, which I was standing very close to film them. One of them went sideways, hit a bus, and exploded. I've committed a lot of crimes in my life, which I will probably never answer for. For Asdfmovie 2, the I Like Trains kid was originally played by my 10, I want to say, year old little cousin. I ended up not going with those lines, obviously, but they did still sound quite adorable.
I like trains!
Muscle School, one of my least viewed sketches. The most interesting thing about this video was that it had a carrot in it. You might not think that's interesting, but boy howdy did every single commenter think it was a dildo. It was a carrot. Psycho Girlfriend Smashes Xbox, which again, not real and not actually my girlfriend, was inspired just by this friend's temper when she played games, and I thought, hey, we could exploit this temper for a video. However, when we actually played the game, she would calm down every time she killed me, so I had to play really hard and not let her get a single kill in for like 40 minutes just for her to be angry enough to get the explosion that you see in the video. Also, she was absolutely supposed to smash the Xbox into the already weakened glass table, but just completely missed. The video still worked, but it would have been a lot smashier if things had gone to plan. Also, her actual boyfriend spent the entire 50 minutes we spent shooting it hiding behind the curtain, ready to unplug the real Xbox when she picked the fake one up. It was an ordeal. Was it worth it? We'll never know. Pin Down was a sketch that came while I was trying to do weekly uploads on YouTube, and I didn't write the sketch. In fact, someone had already made the sketch. I just found it on YouTube and messaged them and said, "This is funny, can I remake it for my channel?" And surprisingly, they said yes, and I made a much worse version. I don't know why I did this. Why? So you remember how I really hate student films because I didn't get an award that one time? Well, in my second year of university, I made another student film called A Student Film, which once again continued to be a satire of student films because I am that bitter. I hate them. I hate student films. I don't know why, but I just want to rip the shit out of all the tropes forever. Your character being in a coma or dreaming the whole time is not clever. Your time loop is not that good. Stop it. You're not Christopher Nolan. Marmite is Terrible was my first ever official sponsored video. Bearing in mind that it has now garnered over 22 million views, you'll be glad to know that I was paid a grand total of £100 to make it. Do you have any idea how much a company would pay to get a video with 22 million views with their brand name in the title these days? A lot more than £100. Glitch was an experimental re-edit of another university short film I made called Cacophony. The most significant part of it, though, is that I filmed it in the abandoned Lincoln Lunatic Asylum. So, the fact that there were no ghosts there that have haunted me forever is amazing. Then again, I'm not entirely right in the head these days, so... Face was the first cartoon in the very short-lived TomSka and Bing animated series, which did not last long at all. Lasted 4 videos. I mean, that's not very interesting, but what is interesting is that it turned exactly 10 years old as of the day that I'm filming this video. The interesting thing about Drunk Science is that you can sing Katy Perry's Hot and Cold perfectly along with the instrumentals, if you want. You change your mind like a girl changes clothes. Muscle School Nunchucks is the only video I've made in the past 10 years, bar the one that I very recently uploaded, that doesn't have over 1 million views. And honestly, that's just very rude. Very unprofessional of that video. The banned University of Lincoln adverts. The things that made a lot of people go to the University of Lincoln, and forever solidified my connection to it. These were made as satire. I wrote them out of spite during a boring lecture, and they almost got me expelled. Funny how that worked out, I guess. Asdfmovie 4 was actually released in German before it was released in English, just because I felt like it. It's also the first Asdfmovie that uses the format that I would use for the rest of the series, namely Todd doing music, Ben doing animation, and celebrity guest voice actors from across YouTube doing the voices. The I Like Trains music video was actually made pretty much exclusively to sell t-shirts. This may kind of seem obvious, but I had just been screwed so hard with an extremely bad deal with Hot Topic, and I was risking losing the rights to a lot of Asdfmovie because of it, so I had to very quickly make this video to promote my new merch store, to make it official and say, hey, this is the store. I own this copyright. Please buy some merch. It was a mess. If you watch the Scrap Week series, you'll know that Holy Shit Cats was a remake of a video I'd already made and then got lost when my laptop got stolen. I also had a bit of a 21-year-old diva-y moment where I stormed off set during the last shot because we were trying to just get the final shot and the traffic would not stop being annoying, and I couldn't take it anymore. and I just threw the script down and walked away. And that was the end of the day of filming, because I'm a little pissed baby. Also, one of the cats is actually a pug. The confession was shot the morning after a New Year's party, so there were actually about 5 people sitting just out of frame, all hungover. It was an incredibly full room, and we shot the sketch anyway. Also, for the hallway sequences, right before we started filming, I tried to put up the picture that's behind us, and in doing so, smashed Jenny right in the bridge of her nose, and the poor thing didn't have time before she had to run off, so she just had to film while still being in a lot of pain, so a trooper. Musical suicide was an idea that I'd sat on for about 3 years and was originally inspired by my friend receiving an I love you text from an unknown number, the text shortly being followed by, sorry, wrong number. And I thought, what's the most extreme we could take this concept to? Also, the reason I'm dressed like that, wearing a big popped collar coat and a turtleneck, is because I'm trying to hide a massive hickey. Also, a couple years later, I found out that the sketch was extremely similar to a 2005-ish era comedy sketch from the sketch show Man Stroke Woman, which I had never seen before, but it's always disappointing to find out that someone else got there first. Because, my god, it's almost the exact same sketch, but not musical. Ledgeman and the Assassin was a sketch for which I had to abandon all sound recording due to a constant, infuriating stream of planes overhead, so the entire sketch is very noticeably redubbed. My voice more so than Kyan's, but just the whole thing. The whole thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck, fella. In Silent Shootout, there is a gag where my hair straightener lightsaber singes and therefore straightens my opponent's hair. However, her hair was so incredibly thick that no amount of curling could actually get it to look noticeably really even wavy to begin with, so the fact that her hair gets straightened in between shots just super does not read on camera. I still left it in though, because I'm too proud. Baby with a Gun caused an understandable little bit of controversy because people thought I was pointing an even prop gun at an actual baby, but in reality, the baby was not there when I was pointing the gun. In fact, the baby wasn't even on set. In fact, we didn't even film my shots on the same day as the baby being on set. That's how far apart we are. Also, here is what Tallulah looks like now, 8.5 years after filming that video. For your information. Now, I know this video is called Fun Facts and Fuck Ups, but here's an extremely not fun fact. The video First Date had to be filmed the morning after we had just lost our friend Ed. And I say not mine, because pretty much everyone in this video was a close friend of Ed's in some sort. And I had to go ahead with this shoot. I was contractually obliged. I would have been sued if I didn't. No one else had to, but they all kindly still showed up. Even though we were all zombified, we were just devastated and grief-stricken. It was a tough day. Only one person on set didn't know, and that was the cinematographer Kieran, who didn't really know Ed at all, and he was just sort of the rock of the shoot for the day. You know, he was in good spirits and not questioning why everyone else was super glum, and yeah, wouldn't have been able to do it without him, but also wouldn't have been able to do it without everyone else who showed up and was strong on that day, because my god, that was the toughest day on set, I think, for everyone on there. It was brutal. A fact that was lost on my very VFX spoiled audience was that the sketch Deleted doesn't feature any VFX. It's just starring motivational speaker and comedian Josh Sundquist, who is missing a leg. And when I met him, he said, "Hey, watch me fall over. This is funny. We should do this in a video." And I was like, well, I'm not going to turn up that opportunity. Let's put you on the floor. Meanwhile, it was originally going to be an Asdfmovie gag. It was going to be one of those, and now a universe where gags, and it was the universe where watches don't exist. But after I wrote the gag, I very quickly came up with a different alternate universe, and then I came up with a different alternate universe, and then I came up with about 10 and thought, this has got to be its own original sketch, because otherwise this entire Asdfmovie is going to be different universes. Mr. Cat was actually inspired by real events. While I was at university just playing video games, a random cat just walked into my bedroom and sat on my lap while I was playing away, and instead of picking up a camera and filming it and then that going viral like happens in the cartoon, I just imagined picking up a camera, filming it and that going viral, and turned that into a short film, which in turn then did go viral. So it's this weird sort of strange cycle, that self-fulfilling prophecy. That's the one. Is that the one? I don't care. Christmas Demolition was originally going to be a yearly 3-part series, but by the time we came to the year afterwards, I'd begun to seriously struggle with my weight and mental health and didn't get around to doing it. And then the next year, continued to not get around to doing it. And it would take 6 years before I would finally tell the rest of the intended story in the picture book / animated short film, Sam Kills Christmas. Guitar Warfare was a sketch where pretty much everything that could go wrong did go wrong. First of all, there was supposed to be a celebrity cameo in the video. It was being set up by a studio as part of this deal with YouTube, and there had to be a celebrity cameo. It was gonna maybe be Seth Green, or Jeff Bridges, or John Mayer, or just a whole bunch of people, and on the day, no one showed up. They screwed it up, so it ended up just being the VFX guy who just happened to be on set. Also, I didn't wear any sun cream on a hot, incredibly bright Californian summer's day, so I walked away with a farmer's tan and sunburn that I held for 2 years. Also, most importantly, the footage corrupted. We got back to the hotel after filming and found that we couldn't open any of the hard drives. It was all broken, and we were so worried that we had lost everything on what remains to this day one of the most expensive shoots I'd ever had. But luckily, we fixed the hard drive after some crafty tech magicness and found out that the only thing that we'd really lost was pretty much all of my close-ups. So the fact that I had learned to play the song flawlessly didn't matter. It was all gone. It's all gone. For the sketch Cake, I somehow pretty much completely failed to get the one thing we needed for the sketch, an extremely big cake. So I had to get a friend at the time to go into central London, buy the biggest, fanciest looking cake they could find, and get a taxi directly to my house with the cake. So yes, the cake was strapped into its own seat in a car. What a diva. Also, for just a few frames, the whiteboard says Asdf 1013, which is to indicate that the next Asdfmovie would be coming out in October 2013. People did not get that somehow. I blame the Americans. A lot of YouTubers will be told by comments and fans that your video saved my life. Stabbed, however, is the only video that maybe actually did genuinely save a life. This was a public safety service announcement commissioned by the British Red Cross, and they were informed that someone did get stabbed and survived because they remembered the contents of this video, which is okay. The sketch The Fallen was actually a shot-for-shot remake of a brand deal I'd filmed the previous winter that had fallen through. It was originally called Colonial Morons, and I'll let you figure out what it was a brand deal for. The video was actually filmed on a real active power station, and therefore the shoot had to be insured for £20 million, because if we broke anything, half of London would have lost power, which would have been a bit of a little oopsie-whoopsie, to be honest. Also, this sketch was the first time I ever wore a horse mask, and I learned very quickly that I was super allergic to the inside of the horse mask, because by the time I took it off, I could no longer breathe. At the time of filming coming out, gay marriage was not yet legal in the UK, and so every church we approached to film the gay wedding scene outright rejected it. They were like, nope, we don't have to do this yet, so you can fuck off. So the way we got around that, not one to respect the wishes of the cloth, was to make a fake script for a sketch called Jack's Special Day, in which Jack just had a wedding scene with a woman, as it should be, and we had a fake bride that would stand up on the altar while we set up the cameras and focus, and then as soon as the camera's rolling, and more importantly the priest wasn't in the room, I would run up onto the altar and get my shots, and I fully almost slipped and broke my neck in one of my stage run-ons, which would have been quite a poetic, divine irony. Yeah. Oh, also the Living Tombstone and Little Deuce Deuce are in the background of this sketch. Legendary musicians, yo. In response to the parallel universe where the letter M doesn't exist, I actually parked the YouTube channel Video Gaze in case I ever decided to make a gaming channel. It just seemed like a perfect synergy or whatever. I never went through with the gaming channel, and it's a good idea I didn't go with that name either way, because I'm very, very straight, and yeah. For the best. All of the artwork that you see in the sketch Picture Perfect was created by an artist named Amelia Tyndall, who was actually on set painting them live very, very quickly, and it was quite intense to behold. Which is very fast. There's plenty of controversy around the sex talk video, but the main thing that sticks out for me, the thing that I regret the most, is that in it I straight up just forgot that adoption exists. I say, if you get pregnant, you're either gonna have to raise a baby you don't want or get an abortion. There's nothing else. Just forgot about adoption. Literal Drinks is another shot-for-shot remake. We originally filmed a much longer version of the script that was so full of puns that we were so very proud of, but when it came to actually putting it in the timeline, it was like, damn, this video is like 5 minutes long. It is far too long, and there was no way to edit it without it completely killing the pace, so we just booked the set the next day and went back and filmed it again. Plenty of fun facts about Sniper Pug. First of all, the star was a pug named Pugwash, who we were not allowed to photograph. We weren't allowed to get any selfies with him. We also weren't allowed to film any behind the scenes footage. It wasn't in his contract. Yes, the dog had a contract, and if it wasn't in the script of Sniper Pug, we weren't allowed to film it, which was, interesting. Biggest diva I've ever worked with. The sketch also features a young Lucy Jane Murray, who is now an incredibly prolific stunt performer. She's been in Aladdin, Black Widow. She's just great, but it will always make me laugh that her first credit on IMDb, no matter what she does in life, will always be Sniper Pug. And also, they filmed a porno on the same set as Sniper Pug. I think it was called Cock of Duty. I haven't watched it. Maybe I should. The fun fact I have about Horse is it's my favorite video I've ever made, and it will likely always be my favorite video I've ever made. It's the only video I ever made that came out 100% exactly as I want it to. There's no mistakes in it. It's just from my imagination to the screen. It's one for one. I love this video. However, while filming the dance sequence, I bent over forwards to pick up the mask in between takes, and boy howdy, I was wearing a very small pair of underwear under a very short dress, and none of the extras like that, so I put a lot of YouTuber celebrity cameos in the Asdfmovie series, but Asdfmovie 8 is the only one that features a real celebrity, one could argue, in the form of international pop star Kylie Minogue. I'm not going to explain how she got there. A big fuck up which only became apparent in the hours after releasing Asdfmovie 8 was that I had to relicense the audio of the Mr. Muffin recordings. I assumed that because I'd recorded with him a year ago, I just owned those recordings outright, but no, I had to relicense them every time. This basically meant that we just had to very quickly pay his management again, but the biggest casualty was poor Rumi, who had made a accompanying song of Asdfmovie 8, It's Muffin Time, and I'd said like, yeah, go ahead, that's really cool, have fun with it, and go ahead, and you can sell it on iTunes. Turns out, no, he could not sell it on iTunes unless he paid a obscenely high fee. It's still on YouTube, and it is an absolute bop, but ugh. In epic girlfriend pranks, I straight up busted poor Alice's nose doing the pie to the face bit. She's a pretty well-trained stunt performer, but I don't think any of us expected that I would crack her nose open, hitting her in the face with a pie. But I did! Sorry, Alice. The animated and underwatched Detective TomSka and Tanya Bear was based exclusively on just a pun. There's a YouTuber called Tanya Burr, and we just thought, what if she was a bear? And made a whole sketch just based on that. It has nothing to do with her. Why? I don't know. Features arguably one of the most dangerous and irresponsible stunts we've ever done in a video. Basically just when Elliot is holding two very real knives, he rolls off his chair onto the floor. And I trusted that he'd be fine, and he was, but you know the phrase, you shouldn't run with scissors? Well, you definitely shouldn't fall over with knives. We're not professional. In delayed reactions, I was required to take a very dramatic puff of a cigarette, something that I don't really know how to do. I don't smoke. And because it was so windy and because I kept fucking it up, I ended up smoking an entire pack of cigarettes in the space of just a couple minutes. And boy howdy, does it turn out I'm allergic as hell to tobacco. Or something like that, because I was sick for a whole day. Fingered was originally written as a sponsored video for Amazing Spider-Man 2, the Andrew Garfield one. It was going to be a random woman in an alleyway getting held up by someone just holding their fingers like this, and it was Spider-Man was going to be terrified of it, and it was originally going to be the Green Goblin flying in to fight Spider-Man and then seeing it and running away, which is why Liz the Hitler sounds like that. It just, yeah, it was a weird video then, and it's still a weird video now. In TomSka vs. Oreo, Hazel turns an urn, cheekily labeled Integrity, into a pile of Oreos. So, first of all, we needed an urn for this sketch. So I tasked our prop and costume person, Sylvia, with acquiring us an urn, assuming she would buy us a new urn. She shows up on set with an urn and says, I borrowed this from my local church. I open it up and I say, Sylvia, this urn is a little dusty on the inside. To which she replies, don't worry, I emptied it first. Also, the video was written and signed off as banned Oreo advert, and only 5 minutes before going live did the brand suddenly say, oh, you can't call it banned Oreo advert, so I at the very last minute changed it to the far inferior title of TomSka vs. Oreo. I hate that title so much. In The New Kid, originally titled Todd Arena, we required a dead bird prop. I would have settled for a taxidermied bird, or just really a plastic bird, anything that resembled a bird. However, when we arrived on set, the producer said, didn't get a bird, just didn't get one. So she had to very quickly run around the nursery that was conveniently in the building we were filming in and make this thing. This is, what? That's a wig. This is not a bird, nor does it look like a bird. However, we still filmed the sketch as if it were, hoping deliriously that it would just look fine in the edit. It does not. The script for Bite Me featured around 10 different monsters, each of whom were only on screen for about 5 seconds. However, each costume change took anywhere between 10 minutes to half an hour, which meant that the shoot was doomed to run over a ridiculous amount. How did we get around that? Well, we hired 2 makeup artists and had them work on a pair of twins. So while one was filming, the other was upstairs getting their makeup removed, their costume changed, and a new look applied. It was efficient, but strange. I kept forgetting which one was which when they were in the makeup. The musical Shoot All Your Problems Away wasn't originally going to come with any sort of politically message on gun ownership. It wasn't originally going to be a satire. It was just going to be a wacky song. But when I first started working on the video back in 2012, every time we'd write a verse, America would happen, and the events specifically detailed in that verse would actually happen, and then we would put the project on pause out of respect and then rewrite it, and it would just happen again over and over again for 3 years. So eventually I just went, fuck it, it's just gonna have to be a satire or else this is never gonna happen. Primitive correctness called for Chris Kendall and I to be made up into Neanderthalic men, so the makeup and costume department got to work turning us into pretty prehistoric boys. And finally they were done and we were called to set, and as I stood up to walk onto set, I looked in the mirror and realized, oh my god, we are in blackface. We have been made so very brown and dark-skinned that, oh, Jesus Christ, no. Absolutely not. So I turned around and said, you gotta take most of this off. Yep, that was a good decision. Upon arriving at Dan and Phil's apartment to shoot Rejects, a crew member immediately knocked over and smashed a glass award trophy thing of sorts. I'm not sure if it was a Nickelodeon award or something like that, but either way, just obliterated it. And for a moment there, things were a little tense because boy howdy were they in every right to say, get out. But they were graciously like, it's fine, let's just get on with it. But, woo! Magical Dream Bed was already one of my more fucked up and dark ideas, but it wasn't until the video came out and I was on stage playing it to an audience that I noticed this frame in the animation. That video was a choice. This is horrific. This is absolutely monstrous. This is a CPR practice dummy type thing. I don't really know what it is, but I know that it breathes. Terrible. This arrived on the set of The Confession 3. Once again, the product of our wonderfully weird friend Sylvia. We don't know where she got it, and we don't really want to know. But this was procured in the event that our baby actor never showed up, so we have a prop baby. And honestly, this would have been much more terrifying than the actual demon baby. But either way, we didn't need to use it, but we kept it, and now it lives in this office, and it's looking at me all the time. Oh, that's actually genuinely really creepy. For the Robot Wars sketch, Sir Kill-A-Lot originally had dialogue. The sketch was going to be a back and forth between the soldiers and him. However, right before we started filming, the BBC were like, no, Sir Kill-A-Lot is stoic and manly and does not talk. And if he did, this is not what he would say. So we had to very much rewrite the dialogue on the fly to be just between Eddie, Elliot, and myself, which made the sketch a much stranger pace and something that we had to save as best we could in the edit. Le Alien features a very much real Frenchman who was very, very confused when I presented him with his costume, the striped jumper, beret, garlic, all that stuff. I was absolutely floored by this. I was baffled, but it turns out he just had no idea how the rest of the world stereotyped the French, which is mind-blowing. If you've ever been to Epcot, that's just what they're all wearing. It's just how we've decided French people dress. But he, and maybe all French people just are oblivious to the fact that's how we think they look. So, In The Wish, our 12-year-old star Hedy did not feel comfortable saying fuck on camera. She didn't want to do it, and we respected her wishes. So instead of saying fuck, she's actually saying funk, and we just bleep it to get around it. Also, that sketch called for a magic lamp, which we went on the internet, and we found, and we ordered, and it arrived, and it was so very small. So small. During the filming of Secret Santa, a Christmas parade, which is apparently a thing, came down the street we were filming on, and naturally I stepped out in the street to see what was going on. I did not have the gun on me, but it was almost too late that I realized that this parade had a Santa Claus, and there were children, and they couldn't see two Santas at once. My God. So I ran. Oh, I ran away. Also, shortly after the sketch came out, it was brought to our attention that it was almost identical to a Brandon Bowen Vine, which was devastating, because while I feel so certain that I had never seen that video, I can never be fully sure that I didn't subconsciously steal the idea. Oh, that feels bad, man. Once Dodie agreed to play the glorified prop role of my girlfriend in 17 Ways to Dump Your Girlfriend, I asked her, what's a YouTuber you've always wanted to collaborate with? And she said, Jax Films. So that's why Jax Films is the narrator in that sketch.
17 Ways to Dump Your Girlfriend.
My little team and I flew all the way over to Hungary to film Time Trouble, and we did so with the knowledge that we would be shooting the sketch we had written. We'd be shooting inside a building, we'd be shooting with a cast member, and that we'd be shooting the evening of the following day. Everything was great. We arrive, we go to our hotel, and the producers take us out for some drinks. We get a few pints in, and I'm like, so, everything good for tomorrow? To which they reply, well, there's been a few changes. Namely, they've rejected your script outright. We are now filming outdoors. The cast aren't available. Oh, and we're doing it in the morning in about 8 hours. So Eddie and I, a little drunk, had to run back to the hotel and write the entirety of the sketch in a matter of minutes before falling asleep. It was a lot. Baby with a Gun 2 ends with an office building exploding, a thing that sometimes I guess they do. Unfortunately, one happened to explode literally right before we were due to upload the video, and the explosion just looked too realistic and visceral to come out that close to a tragedy, so we replaced the well-made explosion with just a shitty stock image of an explosion to kind of round off the edges of the realism and make it more ridiculous and less, traumatic. When the sketch First Contact went live on YouTube, there was a surge of very confusing comments saying, righteous bison, and I had no idea what any of that meant until I googled it and discovered that the prop gun, the laser gun the alien was using, was called the Righteous Bison, a gun from Team Fortress 2. This was very surprising to me, because the way I got that gun was at a Comic-Con. A guy came up to me after the event and said, here, I want you to have this prop that I don't want anymore. I was like, oh, what's this? And he's like, it's a steampunk gun. I'm like, oh, so this isn't from anything? He's like, nope, it's custom made, gave it to me, left. He lied. He lied to me! Also, this may come as a surprise, but First Contact was the single most profitable live-action video I have ever made, simply because it was a part of the single most profitable brand deal I ever had. However, the brand deal, through no fault of my own, fell through right before the video went live, and I was still paid. But luckily, we had made the video in a way that we could very easily just remove any references to the brand, so we cut them out and still uploaded the sketch and still got paid. Basically, just big win-win energy. Holy Shit Cats 2 was actually written only a year after Holy Shit Cats 1, while I was still in a relationship with my co-star. However, we broke up on not very good terms before we could film the video, which is why come Holy Shit Cats 2, she's...
Also, I'm black now.
So I see.
Christmas Delivery, super out of focus and far in the background, is a hidden Mrs. Johnson. And absolutely no one noticed it, because why would you? The original scripted ending of Imaginary Friend was much darker and featured a sequence in which Mr. Tibbles would be at school with a bomb. Yeah. Very shortly before filming Tell Me Something I Don't Know, I realized that I did not have a makeup artist for the shoot, but very much needed one. So I just straight up tweeted out, "Are you a makeup artist and can you be available?" And sure enough, a lovely person named Erin showed up. And when she arrived, I was complaining about how we also didn't have a sound recordist, to which she replied, "Oh, my boyfriend's a sound recordist and he's available right now." So he showed up too, and then I ended up becoming very good friends with both of them. So sometimes you can find friendship in the most magical of places, the place being unpreparedness. I was extremely determined to get the Muffin song exactly how I wanted it, so it actually went through multiple different versions with multiple different artists over multiple years before I finally got the exact sound that I wanted. And yeah, that turned out to be a pretty good decision. Asdfmovie 11 was the first Asdfmovie where I actually brought in someone else to help me write it. Numbers 1 to 10 were just me working solo, and after I'd done that for so many years, I felt I no longer had anything else to prove, and it was time to work with someone else to make the project even better. And then I made the butt joke. It was not Eddie's idea. It was all mine. He fought me on it. He said, "Don't do this, it's not good." And I was like, "No, it's funny. It's gonna be like so unfunny that it's funny." Also, it was released on the 10th anniversary of Asdfmovie 1. Big Fat Monster looks kinda weird, and that's because it was originally filmed with the intention of making it look like a gritty, black and white 50s B-movie. However, when we finally got it into the timeline and started playing around with it, it just didn't quite work, and I was so worried that people would start watching a black and white sketch and click off, because YouTube viewers can be super duper fickle, that I abandoned it and we just tried to make it look as normal as possible. But yeah, that's basically why it just looks kinda weird. The titular character in Sam Kills Christmas is truly gender neutral. Early on into creating the story, I realized that their sex was entirely irrelevant. It had no bearing on the story, and if anything, limited who it felt like the story was for. So I just decided, even if I was pressed to this day, I don't have an answer. I do not know the sex of the character of Sam, and that is because they are 10 and their genitals do not matter. Nor should they. Beard has a really fun fact about it, but I am legally not allowed to tell you it. That's the fun fact about Beard. I legally cannot tell you the fun fact. It's that fun. Wizzo the Wizard was filmed immediately after another shoot that had just run over, meaning we only had about 50 minutes left on that location. So Eddie's anger and voice loss is entirely realistic. It did lead to a good performance though, so I guess it was worth it. The It's Muffin Time Kickstarter promotional video features the last of Sam Lavinio's recordings for Mr. Muffin, including the last little vocalizations, giggles, even him talking to me in the booth saying, "I like the Asdfmovie." Once we had used those, we have officially used everything from that recording session, and that is the last time you will ever hear that character's voice, or at least a new recording of that character, I guess. Bible Time was the sketch we were intending to film when we'd flown over to Hungary, which was rejected, and then we were forced to create Time Trouble. It was also originally called Drunk Science 2. Also, the thing that I put in my mouth to replicate ink was squid ink, and it was the worst thing I've ever had in my mouth, and I can still taste it. It was so bad. Oh my god. I never planned on actually making a Meanwhile 4. There is a Meanwhile 4 uploaded on this channel, but that was just made as part of a joke for a panel I was doing at a convention. But when Google approached me and said, "Hey, we'll give you some money if you use this 180-degree camera," I went, well boy, this is the only series I could possibly imagine using this camera for, so I dredged the series back from hell. Also, the bomb I'm holding in that video is it's a Wii U that I smashed up. Poor baby, I'm sorry. Also, after I smashed it up, I found out it wasn't actually my Wii U. Sorry. Let Me In is a video that I've wanted to make for over 10 years. However, it was originally just going to be called The Ministry and was going to be about a Jehovah's Witness trying to get invited into someone's house so they could talk about Jesus, and would feature them doing a bunch of ridiculous things and trying ridiculous costumes to get invited in, including arriving dressed as a pizza delivery guy and saying, "Somebody order a 3 cheeses with a free Jesus?" But I never had a punchline that I actually liked until I decided to just make the fact that they're a Jehovah's Witness the punchline, and then let me in. Alright, well those were some of the fun facts and fuck-ups about the videos that I have made over the past, oh my god, 13 or whatever years. I hope you found at least some of them at least somewhat interesting. Please, it took me a long time to remember all this stuff. Anyway, here's my favorite fan art this week, and here are the most recent contents. Contents come out every Tuesday, sometimes, but also not, so maybe I'll see you next Tuesday. TomSka out.